Namaste. Big love, peace, blessings, and harmony to those of you that are just coming in. I've just arrived. A little bit fashionably late as always. Just let me close down necessary tabs. Need to be closed. Ooh, I haven't opened up my my Maona software for my PD400X. There we go. That's a little bit better. That's why I'm so late. 4 minutes. I was only planning to be 3 minutes late. But I had to make myself a cocoa. It was just so cold. I wasn't going to have one. Then I decided, you know what? I'm going to put on a cocoa and I put on a sweater underneath this because it just suddenly got really, really cold. And I was running around the house managing my little boy. So peace and love to you. Today, while we wait for a few people to sort of rock up, we can just sort of look at what we're going to be discussing here. I'll give a little bit of an insight into how I pond this topic. And that should give us... Okay, that was not what I was supposed to be doing. There we go. So, where are we? Give me a second. Excuse me. I'm having to close a whole lot of tabs. So, I was watching this little video and, well, I wasn't really watching this video. It came up on my tabs of my YouTube tab, and I was sort of thinking, looking at what was going on. I won't play it to you because I don't want like complications with the YouTube nonsense, right? You know how YouTube can get extremely complicated and start becoming quite a pain in the butt, as the saying goes. So anyway, I was watching the beginning of this video, and within the first 3 minutes, I ended up reaching for a bucket. I was like, I need a bucket. I cannot watch this video without a bucket. And the analogy there is, you know, what do we do with buckets? We vomit in buckets. That's what you're vomiting. And so this is the video that I was watching, and it's done by this Be Inspired channel. They're in the header. And it's Mark Passio, that guy. Don't really watch his content. I know he's quite a big name around, and I've seen him here and there. A lot of people talk about him. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Maybe he's got some good content. And what really sparked me up was to hear him talking about the major and the minor arcana. And I was like, oh my God, this is bad. This is really, really bad. Namaste, Howard. How are you doing? I hope you're having a great, great day. Juan. Who? Juan on Juan. When you say Juan, you mean Juan on Juan. Juan on Juan. I like Juan on Juan. He seems like quite a cool dude, if that's who you're talking about. Otherwise, I don't know. Oh, Juan Ayala. Ooh, maybe I don't know Juan Ayala. It is Juan on Juan. Yeah. Juan on Juan seems like quite a nice guy, actually. He seems like quite a nice guy. Just from what I've watched of his YouTubes, he seems like he's fairly, simple, which is good. Namaste, Tom. How are you doing? I hope you're having a good day. Big love and big blessings to you. Peace, love, and honor, respect. Money is neutral. Money is neutral. Money gets pretty charged up, though. Money gets charged up and it discharges. When money's charged up, it discharges evil, as the old Christians would say. Huh? But yeah, so anyway, I was watching the beginning of this video. It says rare video, the most eye-opening 50 minutes of your life, and it starts off, and you can see it's by the Be Inspired channel. If you want to go and look at it. The video itself is from October the 28th, 2024. So you might just have to scroll through, or you can see here, it's the watch. I'll put that there for you so you can see. Question mark V equals those letters if you want to get directly to the video. Anyway, so I was watching the beginning of this video, and there was Mark Boccaccio's voice, and I had to go and double check. I had to go and listen to one of his podcasts quickly. Well, not the whole podcast, just a few seconds here and there, to make sure it was his voice, because the guy said it was him. And I was shocked. I was like, this dude's got quite a big name. How can he not know what the difference between the major and minor arcana is? How can he mix it up that badly, right? It's sort of like speaking about a car and saying that the crankshaft is of the underneath the car is what stops the car. It's your braking system, and that your the engine is there so that you can steer the car, and the steering wheel is how you power the car. This is the kind of, like, really, we're talking basic stuff that if you're talking about the occult, you should have had a handle on this stuff, like really extremely basic stuff. And so I thought, this is it. These guys need a new one, and I'm going to be the one to help them with that, ripping the new one for them, because definitely this other channel that was putting on this Mark Boccacio content was definitely culpable. So what he was saying, and in this video on my screen here, you can see it if you go and watch in the first 3 minutes. He was talking about the minor and the major arcana, and immediately started by saying, well, the major arcana, the minor arcana is inside you. That's the microcosm, and that's really about who you are as a person. That's your internal mechanisms. Those are your internal psychological framework, your archetypes. I don't think he used the word archetype, but he described it in as many words. And then he was talking about the major arcana and saying, like, that is the world outside of you. And the world outside of you is like, the major arcana. It's the forces of nature. And I was like, oh my gosh. You guys are starting a whole discussion about the mystical, occult, spiritual arts based upon these two preambles, which are both back to front and completely wrong. I've got a tarot pack here. Here's an example of major arcana. For those of you that can't see it, let me get you on the screen. So here's an example of major arcana. Maybe I'll get some on the screen. This is the moon, for example. And here's another example, the sun. Funny that I would pull those two straight after each other. And here's an example of the minor arcana. There's the King of Swords, and there are also the Knight of Pentacles, and the Ace of Cups, and the Knight of Cups. Don't even ask me why, but that's how I pull it. The Queen of Cups. Okay. This is major arcana, strength. So the major arcana are 22 cards, for those of you that don't know. The minor arcana consist of the court cards. So there are essentially the 10 court cards of the major arcana, right? The ace, the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then there's the king, the queen, the knight, the page, or the king, the queen, prince, and princess, for example. These are the four sort of ideas out there. I think you might find different packs represent these four principles differently, and those represent the four worlds of emanation, the four proverbial trees that produce this physical reality. Namaste, our tuition. I hope you're good. I hope you're thriving. Hope you're having a good day. Hope life is sweet. Hope everybody's smiling and jiving. So yeah, the major arcana, and I'll actually grab an image here so that we've got one. And I think it's important. I really think it is fundamentally important to grasp these basic concepts, because if we miss this, right? If we miss this, we'll be missing more than just the ideas related to the tarot, because these are fundamental, right? You don't get much more fundamental than this, if I'm going to be honest with you. If you don't grasp this, it's like a carpenter that doesn't know what a saw is used for, right? And they're confused when to use a saw and when to use a hammer. They're trying to cut wood with a hammer. And they're trying to, bang nails in with a saw. It's as ridiculous as that. Like, if you don't understand those basic fundamental elements of carpentry, you shouldn't even be near woodworks, right? That's the reality of it, because you've got to at least know which tools go where, or which tools are used for what task. It doesn't even mean that you're a carpenter. It means you know which tools are used, right? And if you're going to say yourself as a carpenter and you don't know which tools are used for which task, well, that's like really bad form, because it means you're a liar. Let's just call it what it is, right? Let's call it exactly what it is. And so this for me was like quite a shock to see someone who's so well proverbially decorated saying this about the major and the minor arcana. So it's the same as the 7 planets and the 12 signs of the zodiac. The Mazaloth, the 12 signs of the zodiac, relate to the major, to the not the major, to the macrocosm, right? And the 7 planets, 9 planetary influences, relate to the microcosm. These are the internal potentials as we relate to these spiritual forces inside ourselves on a personal level. And the macrocosm is the 12 signs of the zodiac. And this is how these principles are manifesting themselves outside into the physical domain of the real world matter. And with the minor arcana, the Sephirot, because the minor arcana are the numerations, and they represent the Sephirot, essentially. So, minor arcana. Let me get a picture for you so we can show you what we mean. We need to show you because you need to see. There's an old saying, seeing is believing. It's only when you see that you believe, So we're going to make sure that we get you to see so that you can believe, because I want you to believe me. I really, really, really want you to believe me. So here's an example of the major arcana. It's not the best example, but it's at least an example. And as you can see here, you got the 4 suits, right? And it's not a very good picture. I'm not sure what tarot back this is, but there you can see you got the ace, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you got the 4 court cards, right? And you got the suit of cups, the suit of swords, the suit of wands, and the suit of pentacles. And they represent the 4 elements. And the 4 elements are sort of fundamental to the wheel, right? And this has got to do with the horizons, like the east, the west, the north, the south. And these are the 4 sacred holidays, the 4 solstice events. It's related to mapping the sun and mapping the physical movement of the stars. So that's why we have the minor arcana organized in the way that it is. And obviously it is 14 cards per suit, right? And the 14 cards per suit adds up to 56 cards. So the 56 cards of the minor arcana represent the macrocosm, the minor arcana. And I want us to get this right. And then we've got the major arcana. And the major arcana are the ones that you probably know better, because these are the 22 court cards that everybody's always going on about, right? And they represent a much more personal scenario, right? They are much more personally wired into our psychology, related to our archetypes more than anything else, more than any other, shall we say. And so to understand the difference between the major arcana and the minor arcana is no small thing, right? I want to see if I can get a better picture for you guys, but there is a picture so you can see. Those are the minor arcana. Those are the major arcana. Make sure I get this right, baby. And the major arcana are the fundamental cosmic elements of the self, if you want to consider it as that. They represent, in an esoteric sense, the ascent of the aspirant. they represent us moving towards an enlightened state of harmony. And so they are rather fundamental to, and these are the cards that you probably all know well, because there's a lot of people that talk about the major arcana quite frequently. But this is them. This is what they look like, right? And they are related to the 22 letters of the Phoenician, Paleo-Hebrew, and Hebrew letter of alphabet. In fact, there are old stories that suggest that that alphabet has its origin in the Egyptian language, and that it was decoded from a set of symbols, and that those symbols were then reanimated and put into pictures. And so the major arcana is the essential body of law of teaching of the true Kabbalah, as well as the minor arcana. And so if you want to understand the true Kabbalah, all you need is a tarot set. Everything else is superfluous. You don't want that funny little squiggly diagram of the tree of life. You don't even need the enneagram. You need nothing. Just these symbols to give you a symbolic understanding and relationship with the fundamental archetypes is really what will give you the footprint that you need in order to be able to consider things from a mystical perspective. So anyway, Mark Passio was talking about how the major arcana was representing the outside, when it's those 22 fundamental archetypes that are the structure of the self. When the 22 archetypes that structure the self are essentially the three mother elements, right? And these three mother elements, they recombine as three things can, like A, B, C, A, B, A, C, B, C, and ABC make 7 different potential combinations. And those 7 recombinations combine to form 12, because when the 7 makes a loop, it makes a circle. So the Ouroboros. So 2 of the 7 have to become the head and the tail, right? Which is the masculine and the feminine pole, Leo and Cancer, for example, in the astrological wheel. And then the other 5 planets have polarities of masculine and feminine. And so that's why you have all the planets having 2 signs, except for Leo being ruled by the sun and Cancer being ruled by the moon. Gemini and Virgo are both Mercury, and Aries and Scorpio are both Mars, and Sagittarius and Pisces are both Jupiter, and Capricorn and Aquarius are both Saturn, and Libra and Taurus are both Venus. And have I left anybody else? I don't think I've left anybody else. But so this is how the 12 elements emerge from the 7 elements. So you've got the fundamental 3 become the minor arcana of the 7, and this externalizes itself as a wheel, and that wheel becomes the 12 elements of the Mazloth, or the macrocosm. And when you add the 12 to the 7, you end up with 19. And when you add the 3 fundamental building blocks from which everything is made, it's 22. And that's why we have 22 major arcana. So that is like the map of the self, specifically the internal self, as it relates to the journey and the process towards unfolding, towards becoming aligned with our deepest potentials, with our true self, with our holy guardian angel, with our spiritual identity. Use whichever terminology you want, but that's essentially what the major arcana represents, the microcosm in all of its finer tunings. And then we have the macrocosm, which is related to the minor arcana. And I can understand how somebody that hasn't been trained or initiated into this could be confused, right? And so this gives us an insight into the true background of Mark Passio. If he doesn't understand this fundamental difference, then I'm sorry, mate. What are you doing writing books and putting yourself on a podium when you don't know what you're talking about? It's just ridiculous. So these are the major, these are the minor arcana, major arcana. Sorry, let me find the minor arcana. There we go. So these are the minor arcana here. And once again, I'm pretty sure I can find a better image. Because I don't like that one. You see, I'm an imagist. An imagist, you say? Yes, I'm completely an imagist. I I get offended by images very easily. The image has the wrong color. That's not the right color image. So what does that make me, an imagist? I don't know. Who knows? How big is this one? No good. So while I'm looking, but there you can see the minor arcana, and as it represents the fundamental sort of lightning bolt, as it's often referred to. Yeah, it's often called the lightning bolt, or the sword of heaven is another one of its famous terms. Ooh, this is going to be much better. 300. No, it's not. It's really hard to find a complete set of the minor arcana that isn't in low resolution. That's quite interesting, huh? That is in itself quite interesting. But anyway, we'll just stick with that image because we don't have a better one. You can see there, if you take a look at it, quite clearly that it represents the aspects of ourselves that are manifest in the world, right? If you look at the stories being told, if you have a tarot pack at home, then you'll be able to see it quite easily. For example, this is the Knight, and the Knight of Cups represents, well, there's a guy there offering a cup, right? And you can see that when you're looking at the minor arcana, there's always actions being implied. Actions. So here you can see there's a guy, he's in the process of waiting. He's waiting for something to come his way, for an opportunity. He's got his 3 cups that he's already achieved in front of him. It has to do with a certain degree of fulfillment. Has to do with the personal, emotional field, and the sense of how we relate to ourselves on a very personal level. Here you can see there's one which is related to the career world, the vocation, the forces that we're driving towards materializing something. And here we see the 10 of Wands. You see this guy's like he's toil. This represents toil. He's working really hard. He's putting everything into. He's putting his shoulder into it, literally, in order to pull all the branches together, so that he can build something worthwhile out of all of the efforts and sacrifices that he's made. And so, if you understand like the basic language of symbolism, like let's say you've worked with the arcana, you would know this because it's quite obvious, right? You don't have to guess. So like that's what inspired me, and it made me think, I've heard so much like mouth froth from so many sources on the interweb and on YouTube and TikTok and wherever else from time to time when I allow myself to be barraged by this nonsense. And there's been a lot of nonsense about shamanism. Like these days, anything goes as shamanism. If you buy a crystal and you light some incense, that's it, shamanism. If you got a gong, definitely shamanism. Do a couple of fancy breathwork exercises. Now you're a breathwork shaman. And of course, nobody knows what a shaman is. But like everybody's reading these books about people who say that you need to take all these drugs and stuff. Okay, because that's what shamanism is really about. It's like getting off your face and taking as much different medicines, sacred medicines as you can, which doesn't really sit well in the Himalayan shaman tradition. The Himalayan shaman, they don't need substances to do their work. It might be something used during an initiation like once or twice, but otherwise it's not really part and parcel of the work at all. So there's all these like different ideas out there. And then again, what they talk about is shamanism coming from Tungal. The reason they say shaman comes from the Tungal lands is because that's where people always used substances exclusively. And so there's this desire to attach shamanism to the use of substances, which I think might be some kind of a counterintelligence psyop. I think it could be a specific reason why this is happening. Why people are being driven into this belief pattern to recognize that one of the oldest traditions in the world, which relates to esoteric and occult practices, from whence all the other esoteric and occult spiritual development practices and exercises have evolved, from whence all the religions have evolved. It's sort of like the deepest core root of human spirituality, if you want to put it into perspective, is shamanism. And they've had to sort of sully this root, Because if they can sully the root of shamanism, then they can sully the root of all the other spiritual and occult traditions that came from it. And then from there, they can sully all the religious traditions and all the philosophical ideologies that came as a result of these. So I think like this is, this is a concerted effort. I don't believe it's it's not by design. I think it's 100% by design. And we see so much of this, and all of these books, and I'm always cranking on about how these books are misleading, these books written by all these people with regards to the occult. None of them are really practicing. They're more interested in reading and researching and thinking that they've learned something because they've read a few books. It's a lot easier to read a book and convince yourself that you know things than it is to actually go and do the work and actually learn things. Because we only really truly learn when we get our hands dirty, as the saying goes, You've got to roll your sleeves up and to get involved with the visceral experience of what it is you're wishing to understand and gain an insight into before you can, pretend or claim any knowledge related to it. By the way, this is going to be a short one. My little boy's going to need me in a little while. I just felt the need to come and talk about this because it was bugging me. So the shamanic thing is for me quite a big thing. Being a shaman, having this is my 9 to 5, by the way. This is what I do. It's my full-time gig. It's my day job. So when I hear all these so-called shamanic enthusiasts, shamanic practitioners, what they like to call themselves, or people that have gone to pay for a course with John and they read some books on shamanism and they did an incense ritual and they hit the gong 3 times and they hit a cute little pipe, and maybe somebody blew some tobacco at them. Maybe they blew tobacco down their nose, and now they're a shaman. They had a great experience. It was wonderful. They were like seeing the world outside of their body for the first time, and now they're a shaman. And so there's a lot of this out there. There's a lot of this nonsense. Or they didn't have an out-of-the-body experience. They didn't have any spiritual experience, but they're still a shaman, because they paid for their course. They don't want that money to be wasted, So I think there's a lot of this out there, and we should hold ourselves accountable, ourselves and everybody else that's in this boat with us, because it's really up to people to start paying attention to just exactly what's going down. I've noticed people are calling themselves accredited shaman. I was like, accredited shaman? Yeah. So what happens is some guy by the name of Paul, let's just pick it could be Paul. He decides that he's a shaman one day because he went to another guy called Andrew, and Andrew charged him like $500 to come and sit down and beat the drum and light some incense and hit this pipe and hold the gong for a while and hold the sound bowl and do a few cute little breathing exercises and now you're a shaman. There you go, $500, ching ching. Now you're a shaman. And then obviously Paul went off and he was like, "Nah, I'm a shaman. Yeah, I'm a shaman." But he couldn't call himself shaman because naturally he can't go into the wilderness. The animals won't accept him. They just stomp on him and that'd be the end of his existence. So, he had to. He's a shamanic practitioner. Oh, okay, he's a shamanic practitioner. Well, that's next best thing. Next best thing than being a shaman, I suppose. And then he decided, well, he's not really making any money as a shaman because, it's maybe he doesn't get referred. His clients aren't referring him to their friends because they're like, I don't know what I paid for. So he sits down and he tries to figure out, I need a new business model. And he goes, I know. I can sell accredited licenses to other people who want to act as shaman. And so he gets the business model together and he sets up this really cool looking website. Because that's all you need is an expensive website because people are going to think, wow, look at this website. This bloke must be for real. So obviously people come to his website and go, wow, this is so cool. And he accredits everybody as shamanic practitioners. And they get a cute little license with a little plaque that can hang on the wall, like a doctor or something, It's sweet. Obviously, it costs a couple of $100 or a few $100, whatever, for the registration. There's probably different tiers of registration that people can buy, right? So now you got all these freak show comedian people running around calling themselves accredited shaman. or accredited shamanic practitioners, because they went to Paul and they paid him money and they got a cool little certificate, and now they feel very special because they're accredited now. Obviously, that accreditation means nothing to anybody anywhere other than to Paul, because it floated his bank account with whatever he was charging for that piece of paper. But this is what's going on. This is not just in shamanism; it's in a lot of the alternative community when it comes to like sort of spiritual practices. I'm betting that there are people that can become accredited as hermeticists. I bet you. I mean, I haven't looked into it, but I bet you there's some clever Tom out there. Guy named Tom. He read a book about hermetics. He met another guy called Charlie. Charlie waved incense at him and hit a gong 3 times and let him hold the bell. And now he's a hermeticist. He's now got this grade in hermetics. He's a magician. And he started his website. Now he's selling accrediting. He's letting other people pay to get receipts so that they're accredited hermeticists. This is what the world is becoming. And I mean, I'm sorry if I'm trivializing it and making it seem ridiculous, but that is like literally what is happening. Like, this is literally what is happening. It's happening in so many. I was watching it happening decades ago. Like, the reason I never went to become an accredited Reiki person was because I looked at it when I was young, when I was a kid, and I thought, oh, this is just a money game. This is just a sham, basically. And, you know, you can pay or like go for one day workshop, and then schedule another 1-day workshop, and then schedule another 1-day workshop. That's Reiki 3. Is that a Reiki master? Reiki 3? Do you have to do a 4th day workshop? Reiki master does how many workshops? 3 or 4? It's been so many decades. I can't remember. 4. Okay. So yeah. So first it's Reiki 1, then Reiki 2, then Reiki 3, then Reiki Master. Now they're allowed to give people other people certificates as a Reiki Master, as a Reiki. Yeah. And so I'm not saying that Reiki is bad. I want you to understand something. I'm not knocking Reiki, because I've known some people that are really proficient at Reiki, and Reiki in itself can be a very powerful system. What I'm knocking is the way the system is being marketed and sold, and the accrediting of it. You know, the same for yoga. Same thing. You can spend $5,000 of yoga. I think you got to do a teacher's training course. You got to do so much teaching. It's very, 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 very little. Very, very, very little. I think you got to do like a 1-week course, a 2-week course, and then like a 4-week course, and that's it. If you do those courses, you can be a yoga teacher, accredited. And when you think about it, you can't do that to become a nurse. You can't do that to become a physiotherapist. You can't do that to become a dance teacher. You can't do that to become a doctor or anything, but you can do it for yoga. My mom became a sports medicine person, and she did a course for being a physical trainer. And I think it was it a 1 year or the physical trainer's course was a 1-year course. It was a full-time course. It was a full course with license and constant, like going to a college, right? And it's every single day, and you write exams. And she did 2 years of studying, and part of it was sports medicine and this. My point is that's that's a lot of work. My girlfriend has done 2 years of studying to become a kinesiologist, and that's the metaphysical kinesiology that's based upon Taoist Chinese medicine. Man, she has worked her butt off for 2 years, right? She didn't do 4 6-hour workshops, 24 hours done, bang, she's accredited, like Reiki. Or she didn't go and do a 38-day workshop with another few short little workshops, like squeeze it into 2 months. No, she worked for 2 years, and it's a lot of work, and they do exams every term, right? And there's lots and lots to study. There's lots and lots to study. You know, the meridian systems and the organs and the body and all the different maneuvers that they use, you know, for muscle testing and understanding what the locks mean. And there's a lot of set work. There's a lot of work to cover. So you'll find that there's this sham happening in this sort of modern industry. And where's the star of the show? Here he is. They want to say hello. Do you want to say hello? He's been in a mood today. Huh? Are you still angry with Daddy? He's very angry with Daddy. He's in a very bad mood today. Hey? Are you in a bad mood? You see, he's in an unhappy mood. I think it's because I didn't give him that much attention this morning. And then I kept putting him by his food and he kept getting annoyed and shouting at me. And then when I took him to stroke him, he started biting me. Namaste. Sorry, Hollow Bone Hawk, not 2 years, 4 years. For the last 2 years since she's been doing it she was doing it for 2 years full time, and then she had been doing it for 2 years prior to that. Exactly. So the difference is like people have to like work, you know, to actually get these accrediting, you know, qualifications in all of these things if they're like real. So these days you can buy accreditation basically if you got money in all sorts of things, in sort of this kind of massage or that kind of sort of, you know, therapy, alternative therapy, or this or that, or this kind of teaching, breath work, right? You can go and do a couple of breathwork courses, and there we go. You're a breathwork therapist, just like that. Bang. You don't have to have a background in it. And people are cashing in. People are cashing in big time because it's the way it works. And for example, breathwork is such a massive industry at the moment. It's really popular. Come, let me help you. Do you want to go down? Do you want to go down and do another bit of adventure? So this is part and parcel of the whole sort of the attitude towards the industry, and this is why people like you know, this Mark Passio. This is why people like Mark Passio get to talk the nonsense that they talk. This is why they get away with it, right? Because there are so many people out there that are calling themselves accredited this and accredited that, and they start talking absolute mouthwash nonsense. And they got this piece of paper and they feel really confident now because they got the piece of paper that they know what they're talking about, but they don't. And mostly they've read like a few New Age books. They haven't got a background or foundation in practice. And it's like, it's literally the blind leading the blind. And this is where we're at. So when we're watching the YouTube stories, and it doesn't stop there, right? It goes right into the mystery schools themselves, right? The mystery schools, the Golden Dawn, the Theosophical Society, the Anthroposophical Society. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good content there. There's a lot of good information in all of these systems that you can gain. There's a lot of good, but what happens is the systems become in some way corrupted. And it usually has to do with money. Usually. So usually what happens is there's some kind of money to be made, and there's people with their own ideas. And so if you go, for example, let's say you want to learn something about anthroposophy. How many books are there written about anthroposophy? Let's check. How many books are written about anthroposophy? Just as an example. Oh. Okay, they won't tell you, but I'm pretty sure there's thousands. How many thousands? Of books are written about anthroposophy. And so you'll find that there are thousands of books about anthroposophy, right? Steiner only wrote about, I think, how many did he write? 30 to 40 books. There's quite a lot of his lectures that have been transcribed as well, as far as I know. But then there are 10 times that many books written about anthroposophy, just as an example. And so if you wanted to learn about anthroposophy, you're probably going to learn about it by a book that was written by somebody who was an enthusiast. And somehow they won a position in the Anthroposophical Society. And we can't imagine that the Anthroposophical Society now is what it was intended to be, because it's just not really necessarily how things work. It would be a bold assumption to begin to imagine that. But this is one of these things that we can sort of recognize. So in all these sort of fraternities and these organizations, you know, they have political structures within them. They have politics happening. People are vying for positions of power within the structure, within the organization. And namaste, Vincent. How are you doing? I hope you're good. I hope you're well. Hope you're thriving. Hope you're swell. Yeah, you know. So this for me is like very close to the point of what we're discussing. And this is probably what has happened is this Picasso guy, let me get his name. This Mark Passio guy has probably read some self-help books that he thought were valid, written by people that decided that they were people that know about these topics because they got some kind of a little piece of paper that they bought from a guy called George or Paul or Michael or Peter or Anne or whatever. And they're now accredited in whatever they think they're accredited in. And so they're talking nonsense about the stuff that they're writing about. And that this is so typical. Like, you'll find that a lot of people are in such a hurry to write books, right? And you'll find this is very common in our circles, right? People are writing books like they are noobs in the topic that they're writing books about, and they'll even acknowledge and go, "Well, I've been studying this topic now for like 4 years. I'm writing my second book." I'm like, "Holy crap, dude! Do you think I would go and train in martial arts for 4 years and be writing my second book? No, dude. If I'm going to write books about martial arts, it's like if I thought I was able to write books about it, I would have to be training for like 20 years before I'd even consider writing a book. And I'd probably think that I'm still not ready. 30 years, 40 years, you know, like then you're ready to write books. But these days, no, not with the young population of today. You know, they don't need to know much. They're ready to write a book. If they read a book, they're ready to write a book. They read 4 books, they must be ready to write a book. You know, I read all 4 of those books. Of course, I'm ready to write a book. So now they're writing a book based on the 4 books that they read. And this is, you know, take him to task. Yeah, he needs a new one, man. Come on, new one. It's time for a new one, new one, new one. Mark Passio needs a new one. We're gonna rip him wide. Gonna open up the divide. Yeah, but yeah, getting back to seriousness, I think that this is a pandemic problem that we're dealing with here, and this pandemic problem is like it's massive, and it's one of the reasons why I struggle to watch YouTube. I'll watch YouTube and I'll see this young person who means nothing, but like, okay, it's good and well, and then they're telling you no, they got interested in this in 2018, and I'm like, okay. And then they wrote their first book in 2021. I'm like, holy crap. Like, you don't set the bar very high. Like, if you've written your first book by 2021, you must have started writing your book a year in. So if that's what you need to know to write a book, then how thoroughly can you be researching, right? Like, how thoroughly are you doing your homework? And this is why the major and the minor arcana were so badly mangled by Mark Passio and the what do they call themselves? The Be Inspired channel. Oh, what a load of cockdrop. Be Inspired channel. Very sweet. Look, these organizations, they get a lot of hits, huh? I was showing my beautiful better half. I was talking to her today, and I was explaining to this AI video came past my stream, right? So this AI video, this guy's got 2 videos in his channel. He started his channel 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. Just over 2 weeks ago. He's got 653 subscribers in 2 weeks. One of his videos is 10,500K views. And the other video that he just dropped 2 days ago has already got close to 3,000 views. Right? And I was just saying to this is ridiculous. What is it? It's a guy who uses AI to recreate what it would have been like to be in the Titanic. Recreate what it would have been like in his 2 videos is to recreate going to Scotland in the old times. And the other video is to recreate being in the Titanic. And that's it. And it's like I time travel to is the name of his videos. And it's just all AI, the whole lot. But this shows you what's going on. I was making a joke with my girlfriend. Maybe I should start a second channel where I make AI videos about going to the moon or Jupiter or something, right? And use that to fund my channel. Because you make money out of it. Because if you make one video like that, you're going to get like 10,000 views, right? And if you're getting 10,000 views on a video straight like that, that must be worth like probably starting to turn over like $100 or something like that. You know, it's probably turning over money. So, you know, you this is what's happening. Like if people want to make money, they make AI videos, and they get pushed by the algorithms. The algorithms is pushing the nonsense that you're making because it's AI, it's rubbish, it's cheap thrill. It gets pushed. But the people that are pushing like the real content, they are not being pushed in the same way. So you got to ask yourself why Mark Passio is being pushed the way he's being pushed. The same way that AI channel has been pushed. And I bet you that if you go back to that AI channel in 6 months, it'll have like 10,000 subscribers. You know, by the end of the first year, it'll probably have like 20,000 subscribers, 30,000 subscribers, right? And that'll be like or 20,000 subscribers by the end of the first year, and they'll probably only have made about 30 videos, right? So this is what's going on, and it's sort of a sign of the times, right? I was having this conversation in my group yesterday, and somebody was saying about how, you know, conspiracy theories and psyops, and yeah, a lot of people just believe everything's a conspiracy theory and a psyop. And I'm like, well, don't you think it is? Don't you think there's enough evidence? You know? And I challenged them, this person, and I said, well, do you think it's not a conspiracy theory when the big corporations of the world get together and manipulate the world economies? And in that process, they manipulate the economic policies of governments that are then bound to follow particular political paths towards economic abundance for the economies that they rule, so that the currency doesn't drop in value in order to keep the currency growing. So they are bound by the dictates of these super corporations that have not been voted for, and that these super corporations are all owned by mostly a group of billionaires that all have massive stock assets in all of these corporations, and they get together and have little secret meetings to discuss how they can all maximize their money, right? You think they don't? Come on, man. Why wouldn't they? Of course they do. And that these people are ruling the world, and these same people have massive interests in our media, and that they fund a lot of the media companies. So they've got money in the media industry, owning shares, and they can pick up the phone and speak to the CEO and say, I own like so much shares of this. I would like to see this kind of idea being pushed. And if a few of us billionaires that own big shares in that CEO call the CEO and make the same request, don't you think the CEO is going to make it happen for us? Yeah, we want to see this kind of content. So suddenly this kind of content starts coming up, you know, in the media, in the news, for example. We don't want the news to look unfavorably upon A, B, and C, but we want it to look unfavorably upon Z, Q, and R. Z, Q, and R is going to be demonized. A, B, and C is going to be, you know, treated like it's treat it like it's heaven. And so then there's these terms, conspiracy theories, that people still like to throw around. Oh, it's just conspiracy theories. And once again, what's the real conspiracy? The real conspiracy is that they've put these words out there for numbskulls to use the words for anything that they can't explain. And then that becomes a blanket term to just, oh, it's a conspiracy theory, put it over that blanket. That's the end of that conversation, kind of thing, as if that now is the end of a conversation. And that's a great way to produce division in people and to stop people having actual important conversations and answering actual questions. And you'll find that sometimes if you're in a conversation like this and you ask a pertinent question, then the topic will be changed to, oh, but that's just about conspiracy theories. Oh, so you can't answer the question. And if you ask again, it's just a simple question, yes or no. And you'll find that people don't want to answer those questions, because if they do, it will display something. It will show something. So this is a typical situation that we're bumping our heads against these days. And, it isn't a small thing. And it's in the occult community in a big way. There's just so much of this absolute nonsense being pushed. Let me give you an example. I was watching people having a conversation in an esoteric group. It was about the banishing ritual. Now, you guys will know the banishing ritual, the lesser banishing ritual. And it's something that people would practice before doing a ritual. And I heard people saying that, no, the banishing ritual is just a big psyop. It's been created so that people will banish their own natural protection. I was like, what? These are the kind of psyops that are being sold. These are the kind of things that are being pushed. It's for real. It's happening. What is the banishing ritual actually? Well, what it is you are going into your psyche, right? You are finding a balance, and you are creating a zone around where you are working, where the polarities and energies of the outside world have been neutralized to a point that there is a balance and a harmony, a circle of balance and harmony around you, where the four elements are all distinctly put into their own context. Why banishing? Why not invocation? Well, the excess frequencies of each element is banished at that place in order to create what is almost like a nullifying zone. Why? So that the intrusive energies from the outside world doesn't intrude within your circle and affect your ritual and your energy work and your contemplation. And so that the cone of energy and power that you raise within your circle doesn't escape outside of your circle and affect the little old lady down the road who's walking her dog and make her head go all crazy because she can't handle all these vibrations and energy in the air. So there's a dual-sided purpose for using these banishing rituals. And if one understands this, then one would understand the purposes of these banishing rituals, for example. But these psyop ideas have been promoted by the so-called spiritual occult groups out there, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. And so now these beliefs have been propagated that these banishing rituals are just really a way for you to banish yourself, and that it leads to psychosis. And I was like, what? No, well, this girl did the banishing rituals a lot and she got psychotic, and this one did that and got psychotic. Well, anything can lead you to psychosis if you overdo it, right? If you become obsessive with something, whatever that is, it can lead you to psychotic states of mind. And it's up to you to be balanced. Tarot can lead to psychosis, just like the banishing ritual can lead to psychosis. If you base every decision that you make in life upon the tarot, and you carry a tarot pack in your pocket, and every time somebody asks you a question and you pull out your tarot pack and you start shuffling and you start doing tarot because you can't do anything. Should I shower now or should I shower later? Out come the tarot cards, like somebody says, can I meet you next week, Monday? Out come the tarot cards. Monday, no, it'll have to be a different day. And people are going to look at you and go, what the hell? What about Tuesday? Let's do another reading for Tuesday. Oh, yeah, Tuesday's good. What time? Let's do another reading, Like, if you behave like that with a tarot pack, of course you're going to become psychotic. If you behave like that with a banishing ritual, every time you feel a difficult and challenging emotion, you're then going to do a banishing ritual because you believe you're banishing that emotion. Well, if that's what you think you're doing, then you're missing the point of what a banishing ritual is. But I'm just pointing this out. This is a conversation I saw, and these people are getting these ideas from YouTube and from TikTok and from people like Mark Passio and from these kinds of, like, I know all about the occult. Let me teach you about the occult. You do you? But you don't know what the difference between the major and the minor occult arcana is in a tarot pack. Come on, man, that's basic stuff, right? That's like wanting to teach martial arts, but you don't understand how a proper stance. You don't even know how to stand. Namaste, dear Natalie. How are you doing? I hope you're well. I hope that's being like Two Faces, the Batman villain. Big love, man. Big blessings to everybody. Hope you guys are well. Hope you're thriving. Bribes and blackmail got rebranded as lobbying. Oh yeah, Tom, that's a good point. Bribes and blackmail got rebranded as lobbying. Yeah, it is crazy, man. Just exactly what's going on in the world with regards to all of this stuff. So we are living in a very crazy time, and we need to be very vigilant about what we're sort of tolerating, what we're expecting, and what we're accepting as the occult and the esoteric truth. The banishing ritual is a really classic example. There's so many Saturn, the moon Saturn matrix. There's these books that have been written about, and there's lots of people, well-meaning people, that have read these books, and they talk about the moon Saturn matrix as if they know what they're talking about. And because they've read about it in that context, they think it's related to that, but it's not. It's not. And there's really intelligent people that have made this mistake, right? They don't understand. Like I really broke down what the moon Saturn matrix was recently when we were looking at different elements with regards to what the Saturn square and Saturn sigil represents, the enneagram potentials. So to understand the occult presence of this is a whole nother level, right? But people look for an easy solution, and then they write about it. And those books become bestsellers, and everybody reads those books. And other people go, well, those books are bestsellers. They've been written and read a long time ago, and other people have written books about that book, and so it must be valid. I must read that book. They read the book, and now they get brainwashed by the book. Now they think they know what the Saturn moon matrix is about, but they have no idea. They have no idea of the cult formations of the equations of what we're talking about when we talk about these two elements, right? And this is just such a typical misnomer. It's a typical misnomer that is like a real problem, because it just produces more and more confusion, and it doesn't help anybody, right? Just to give you an insight, Saturn moon matrix, right? Just so you know, I'll point it out to you. You want to understand what the Saturn moon matrix is, right? You understand the hangman. Study the tarot card, the hangman. In the center, there's a ring. These are three triangles. They represent the three mother letters, the three fundamental principles. That is the Fool, the Final Judgment, and the Hangman. And the Hangman represents the relationship between the Saturn and the Moon and Mercury together. And it's all got to do with how money came into being, yes, but there's an occult, esoteric, deeper dive about why those people use these forces for what it is. It doesn't have anything to do with money. It doesn't have anything to do with maritime trade, but maritime trade has been based upon it. Money has been based upon it. Money, the moon, number 2. Saturn, what trades money? 8, right? 5 is maritime. That's got to do with the sea. That's how you move resources. So 5, 8, 2, right? That's really what we're talking about when we want to really get down to it. Number 15. And that 15 number, as we know it, is the key. It's fundamental, right? It's fundamental to understanding the basis of the Saturn sigil, right? The Saturn sigil is so sort of fundamental that it all adds up to 15, whichever way you look at it, whichever way you do it. If you do it you look at the numbers across, right? They add up to 15. 4 plus 9 plus 2. 3 plus 5 plus 7. 8 plus 1 plus 6. You do them vertically. 6 plus 7 plus 2. 1 plus 5 plus 9. 8 plus 3 plus 4. Right? Even if you go diagonally down the center, 8 plus 5 plus 2. Right? Still adds up to 15. Even if you do it diagonally the other way, 6 plus 5 plus 4. It still adds up to 15. Whichever way you do this, it comes back to 15. So to understand why that 15 is so important, right? To understand why that 15 is so important is to understand the importance, what they call the Moon-Saturn matrix, which is the relationship between 8 and 2, is pegged upon number 5. And the Moon and Saturn's relationship is pegged into number 5. That's alchemy. That's got to do with the maritime matters. It's got to do, why is it got to do with maritime matters? Because it's got to do with Mercury. And Mercury has got to do with the fundamentals of moving resources around, because it's all about the communication of potential. So when you start looking at this, you start seeing that there's so much more to the Saturn Moon matrix, but everybody's telling you that it's all to do with the Illuminati and that's their way of controlling the world. And yes, they are using that magic. So now then people think that the Moon Saturn matrix is evil. Must be evil because it's used. No. Okay, yeah. The Illuminati use pens. Are pens evil? Oh, it must be evil. Did you know that the Illuminati eat carrots? Oh my God. Don't eat carrots because the Illuminati eat carrots. That must be evil. But they eat apples too. Oh my God, we better ban eating apples because the Illuminati eat them. When do you draw the line? When do you wake up? When do you pull your head out of? When do you push so hard with your feet down against your shoulders till you hear a sound? And then you wash your face. When do you do that? Because this is what people need to do. They really need to pull their heads from their asses. They need to get real. But all this Moon Saturn matrix has been so overdone because it's such a clickbait topic. It's one of the reasons I haven't spent time delving into it too much, because it's the same old crap. Other than to once in a while mention it and say to people, listen, there's so much more to that. Yes, the Illuminati are going to use it because it's got to do with the control structure of the universe, right? We're talking about the water element, right? We're talking about the element of mime, right? That blue triangle, that is the hangman. That hangman has got to do with Odin hanging on the tree. This has got to do with the acquisition of occult power, right? So you want to understand what the 2, the 8, and the 5, very much to do with the acquisition of occult knowledge and power, very much. And that can be twisted and used in a bad way, right? And it is, but it doesn't mean that in itself is bad. And so there's just another one of those examples of just what's going on in the world and how people are sort of abusing a little bits of occult knowledge in the same way that Mark Passio and the Mark Passio and what do they call themselves? Be Inspired channel have been doing. And I think you delve in deeper, you're going to find the same nonsense about Gnosticism, right? There's all the same ideas of Gnosticism. They've all been preached by the same people because obviously the Christian forefathers wrote about the Gnostics and they wrote really dismissive stuff about the Gnostics. Now all the kids have picked up those dismissive books about the agnostics, read that propaganda and decided that must be true, must be some kind of profound esoteric truth. So now Gnosticism is again being demonized by the young people of today the same way it was demonized by the church for 1,000 years. See that? And the people that are demonizing Gnosticism think they're doing it as a rebellious act. They don't realize they're being manipulated in exactly the same way that people were being manipulated 1,000 years, 1,500 years ago. Because Gnosticism is dangerous to the church. And if Gnosticism is dangerous to the church, it's dangerous to the state. What goes with Gnosticism? Anarchy. Oh, but no, now we've got a different understanding of what anarchy is, because the psyop version of anarchy is everything's just completely crazy and out of control. It doesn't mean that people can make their own decisions, be self-righted and manage themselves in groups and organize themselves. No, it doesn't mean that. But it does. So you can see how all of these different occulted topics have been all sort of pushed around and rummaged around and misrepresented by the young people that are writing books And, the writing of books or something we might consider more closely. We need to demonize this thing, because people are in such a hurry to write books. And most often, it's like I've often explained to people, the reason that there's no knowledge about shamanism that's at all valid in any books is because the real shaman are not writing books. They're being written by enthusiasts. People that at best are removed, one level removed from the level that's removed from being the beginner of a shaman. So they haven't even reached the level that they need to reach in order to be ready to be prepared to get to the level where they can become a beginner. They're not at that level yet, but they're writing books about it as if they know something. And they spoke to some guy there after he hit his pipe. He was nice and like, woo, he was feeling pretty good and groovy. And they asked him questions in his groovy state, and he just had a laugh, said a few words, and they wrote it down, and boom, now this is the gospel. So this is where we're at. This is what's going on. The world is falling to pieces around us. Knowledge is falling to pieces. Most of the good books have been burnt back in the times of Alexandra. And of course, that opened a window of opportunity for miscreants to write books that would be misleading. And the best misleading books with regards to the occult would be the books that share a bit of information, because they want the information to be shared. They just want to be shared in such a way that it's not effective. This is why people are not getting anywhere with the occult, why the occult is not breeding people that are enlightened, why the occult is not producing anything that's worthwhile, because it's just all a bunch of mouth fluff. Yeah, people are they're so constipated it's coming out of their mouths. It comes out of their mouths in such great voluminous effects, like it has been with Mark Passio, that they then feel inspired to write books about this stuff. They say, well, people want to hear this brown stuff coming out of my mouth. Maybe I should get a brown pen, put it on a piece of paper, and they can write it. They can go home and sniff it. Get really close up and personal with it. But this is what's going on. To pretend that it isn't going on would be to bury our heads in the sand and pretend that everything's just hunky-dory, when the reality of the occult truth is that the spiritual sciences have been completely buried under a pile of BS. And most people that are sincere and interested in developing their spiritual abilities and moving towards spiritual insights and a harmony and learning how to master occult forces, those people are being disillusioned. They're being disillusioned by all the nonsense that's been put into print and being put out into the New Age communities by these Mark Passio and be inspired channel types. And there are a lot of them out there. You see them prodigiously like vomiting all over TikTok and Instagram and all these so-called fundamental truths. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people that are sharing a lot of good and wonderful truths. But if you listen to the latter part of their video, you'll hear that they're saying something else. So I can say that, it's bad to hit children. It's bad to swear at children. It's bad to shout at children. You must always make sure that you feed children. What if the eighth thing that someone's saying, but it's okay to touch children in an inappropriate way? Oh, hold on. Was that in the small print? Yeah, that was in the small print. So it doesn't matter how many good things you said. If that's in the small print, it undoes all the good things you said. This is what people got to realize. They got to recognize that, the little things really do matter when it comes to the esoteric sciences and when it comes to spiritual arts. And you can't just add in one or two little pieces of the puzzle that are going to corrupt the rest of the puzzle, because that means everything, even all the wonderful truth that has been shared, becomes redundant. How do you think the law of one got to be as well known as it is, right? And the law of one is supposed to be some big thing that everybody's been following and everybody's been having a great time with. Okay, fair enough. I don't begrudge people. If people enjoy the law of one, let them rock it. Let it rock them. Let them find the law of one can bring them some kind of law of peace. But do you think it's actually going to manifest something on that level? Or do you think there's possibly a lot more to it? And the problem then is people read the law of one. And then they become disillusioned. They read the law of one, they practiced it. Now it's all nonsense. Now, all this esoteric and spiritual sciences and occult, it's all mumbo jumbo nonsense. They know because they tried the law of one. So they walk away from it. people who might have actually genuinely been inspired and might have started a journey towards a personal gnosis, a personal state of recognition and realization of the self as the primordial state of being, and allow themselves to actually become acquainted with the deeper elements of themselves and bring into their lives a greater degree of harmony and healing and health and psychological growth and spiritual growth, doesn't ever happen because they've been disillusioned. And part of the disillusionment comes about through these Mark Basio and Be Inspired channel types. They just keep spewing it. And that video that I showed you before, right? Where's that video? Where is that video? Oh, okay, I lost my page. I lost my page, ladies and gentlemen. He lost his page. He'll get his page back. Don't worry. So if you look at this video that I'm about to, it should be popping up onto the screen any second now. If you look at this video, right? And you see, like, you know, the seen and the unseen, the mental schism, the left brain imbalance, the right brain imbalance. They simplify everything. Neurochemistry, they simplify. Yes, the right brain, right side of the brain has got dominance with certain things, but actually the whole brain is part of the structure. Understanding how the parietal lobes are wired into the back of the brain, how the front of the brain controls all the emotional responses and the mental responses, and how the brains interface. They create this neural network that actually causes all the different parts to work together. So they take something as profound and complex as neuroscience, break it down to like a few short one-liner crisps, and now everybody's going to start quoting that and think they're talking science, but they're not. They're just talking about this oversimplification. So this Be Inspired channel here, if I go to the Be Inspired channel here, you can go and take a look and you'll find they've got a lot more of these kind of videos here, right? Joe Rogan, Crack the Law of Vibration. There's just an example of the kind of things that you might find, they messed up our timeline. I don't know if you know this guy, in the center here, this guy. I did listen to his testimonies about 25 years ago. That guy, yeah, I forget his name. He's the guy who talks about all the P42s and the P54s and the P65s, and he worked with the government on the Looking Glass project, and he calls himself a whistleblower. But there's something about this guy that's off. Something about this guy that's off, by the way. And so you'll find, like, just the ideas that we're seeing here. The ideas that we're seeing here, they seem to be like somehow there's a pattern. Somehow there's definitely a pattern emerging. The nonsense that is being spewed, right? I've been told about 2027, ex-CIA officer breaks silence. Maybe. You got to understand that the chances of an ex-CIA officer actually breaking silence is not that common, right? And this is the Mark Basio guy that was that we were talking about earlier, that was talking about that video, the first video I showed you. This is his channel here. And these people have been pushed like crazy. You got to understand that it's exactly like that AI video that I was talking about before, right? YouTube is pushing certain kinds of content. If you're putting out content that's basically going to produce confusion or is going to help to move the human population towards being entertained by AI, they will push your channel like nothing. If you're putting out Christian content that's trying to dogmatically turn people into Christians, your content will be pushed like crazy. Wouldn't be surprised if you had 3,000 or 4,000, if you worked your channel for a year. I wouldn't be surprised if you had 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers in your first year. This is what I've seen. I've seen people that barely make an effort and barely put any content on. If they're talking about Christian stuff, they suddenly, YouTube just pushes them. If they AI content, they get pushed. And it seems like the esoteric and the occult, if you're talking the nonsense that Basio is talking, you get pushed fast. But if you're actually really delving deep into the true esoteric sciences and the occult, AI wants to bury you as much as it can and hold you back. It doesn't actually want to push you forward. So there tends to be this very intelligent marketing regimen that we can see here on YouTube. And it's not just on YouTube, it's on many other platforms where certain things are being like held back and certain things are being pushed. And it's fairly significant what we're talking about. It's not a small little bit. So Henry's trying to scratch on my door, and this is a big problem. I'm gonna have to go soon because he's gonna scratch all the paint off that door, and it's a big problem. And the other people in the house, they're like dodos. They don't recognize that little dog's there carrying on. He's on the other side of the door. But yeah, I am getting towards wrapping this up. Okay, my little boy came to the rescue. I called him. He came. Thank you. Put the chair there and cushions there, my boy. Sorry if that's so loud. I was calling him from the kitchen. But so there is this pattern that we can experience. Bless my boy. Bless my boy. He's protecting the door. He's put the chair there with cushions in front of the door, so Henry can't come scratch on the door. Little guy is so demanding. He wants to come in now. He didn't want to come in earlier. He wants to come in now. He's a Pekingese. They're moody little dogs. We love him to bits, but he's moody as hell. And so yeah, so much of this occult sciences have been specifically occulted. I noticed there was a woman I was watching who does a lot of good work. She's very embedded within anthroposophy, I think. She often speaks about Steiner. I forget her name. And I've seen some of her videos in the past, and she seems very like, she seems like she speaks mostly good stuff. And one of the things she said the other day was really interesting. It was just like totally off. And some of the things people come up with, they come out with, and they just say, oh, that's as that is, as if it is. But it's totally inverted. And this inversion principle is something we've got to be very careful for, because if we start to allow ourselves to believe an inverted version of reality, an inverted perspective of the forces of the macrocosm, then what happens is we start to become inverted, right? It's like if you start looking at the world upside down and you try and look at the world upside down all the time, at some point you will be in the pattern of looking at the world upside down, even when you're not meaning to do it. And everything in your world will become inverted. And you would then start seeing emotional relationships back to front. You would start thinking that, good is bad and bad is good. Up is down and down is up, right? And this is a sacred principle that we need to recognize and understand and put into perspective, is that if we do not practice and maintain the fundamental principles of the universe of natural law, and keep it in perspective in such a way that we're able to sort of see things for what they are, then we will get lost. We will get lost. We will get buried under a mountain of confusion and start to disassociate, because disassociation is the natural tendency when we are not looking at things in terms of being integrous, honorable, and sincere. And when we are being genuine, when we're really paying attention to how things are, we will notice that there's a particular ordinance of being, there's a particular pattern in the way that things work and the way that they are meant to work, I believe. But we also see there's so much inversion happening at the moment. And a lot of that inversion, I think, has got to do with the fact that people are lost. People are lost and they don't know what they want, right? They don't know what they're looking for, but they know that they can find it in books. And so people are searching for it in books. And we need to start putting this into perspective and start realizing that for some reason, experience has been sold down the road. In the old days, what was important was the elders. The elders were respected because the elders had the experience. And the elders would share their experience with the younger ones, and they would then gain insight. Now, The elders have no validity anymore. The books matter. And a lot of the books that we're reading are the books that are written by the young ones. See? So the young ones are becoming the elders. This is what's happening. And a lot of the people writing books are in their 20s because they think that they know so good. They think they know so much better than the elders at that age that they start writing books. Classic example is that the of this process is if you look at the Ikazo-based Enneagram system. I mean, that guy was, what was he, 20 years old? And he showcased his system. And that system became like a global system. You just got to look at it, right? Like, since when did he think he was ready to showcase a system at age 20, right? It's not even a real Enneagram. You know, the so-called geometry they use comes from like the early 1900s. It didn't exist in the 1800s. So, and an Enneagram is something quite specific, you know, if we're going to put it into perspective. But that's just an example of how things have been sort of occulted and twisted and put back to front and put upside down. So I think I've said enough for now. I've shared a little bit here. I've shared a little bit there. I'm going to send you all big love and big blessings. I hope you guys enjoyed my rambling for a while and my bitching and moaning. And Om Namah Shivaya. Take it easy, everybody. Keep it sweet. Have an absolutely fantastic and fantabulous day and evening. We shall see you tomorrow for the live stream, for the roundtable. I don't know what tomorrow is going to be yet. I haven't even thought about it. I have to sit down and meditate late tonight, maybe early tomorrow morning, and see what the energy is feeding and what the energy is broadcasting and what's the perfect topic for now. That's usually how it's done. But I'm going to love you and leave you. Wish you all big hugs, big kisses. Keep it sweet. Don't forget to smile. Life is just too short not to. And Om Namah Shivaya. Big love.